Anyone?
This isn't going to be a direct answer, and but what's the alternative in the juvenile system that y'all think is going to answer this? What programs in the juvenile system do you think are going to handle the high-end kids? Because I'd be curious.
I'll put in a vote for Pathways.
Well, Pathways isn't a juvenile sanction. Okay, I'm asking for what sanction y'all think that's in the juvenile system that would be appropriate.
I think the thing that's really important to remember is the research shows that when kids are going into the adult system, they recidivate more. So even the programs that we have in place right now for juvenile offenders are more successful. And it's been really just in the past few years. A lot of people have had historical complaints about the juvenile justice system. But in the past 5 years, maybe more, DJJ has done a really thoughtful job of tracking data to see where the kids are going and whether the program they're going to, if they go to a program, whatever the outcome is of the case, are they going back to committing more crime? Because obviously at the end of the day, everybody's goal here is to protect public safety, right? And to ensure that these kids are back on the right track. And what the data has shown is that DJJ is the only agency, the only entity that knows how to handle these kids, that knows what's appropriate for kids, and that can put them on that path. All the things that happen in the adult system only create more crime, and that's the last thing I think any of us wants to see.
I would like to add that with the development of and publication of the adolescent brain science and showing that brains don't mature until 21 and even up to 25 years of age, I think that there is a youthful offender program through the Department of Corrections. That is an adult sanction. It has prison component, but it does take into account the further maturation of the youngster, juvenile, teenager, young adult. And it is clear that at-risk adolescents who experience education, reflection, spiritual development, and maturity can undergo rehabilitation and transformation. We just need to give them a little more time in a system that doesn't treat them as if they are fully formed, making good, rational adult decisions when they're not capable of doing that.
And I just meant youthful offender is not available in the juvenile system. It's not available. So I don't think we've heard about it. Youthful offender is not a sentencing option available in the juvenile system. I go back to my question that no one's answered. What program do you think is in the juvenile system that
the juvenile system can be modified to take into account when it needs to be modified, and that's going to take our legislators in Tallahassee. However, we've got to start somewhere, and this is a good place, and it is absolutely very essential to our development as a society.
If I could just say that part of the strange thing that happens in this whole prosecutorial power world is that we end up sending a lot of kids to juvenile programs that don't need to be there. That's not very much a problem in Escambia, but in other parts of the state, because we have this justice for geography, or justice by geography, we see these sorts of problems in other places. So you have some kids who are first-time offenders who DJJ has determined are not likely to reoffend, who are needlessly going into these high-risk juvenile prison programs, which is not good for them, and it takes up unnecessary space. And so we're filling up beds that we don't need to. We've just created this very messy system, but the reality is that the programs are there, that the question is time. And I'll tell you the story of a kid, you can look him up, he's talked a lot in the news about his experience, Angel Sanchez. He was, he'll say, you know, I was a super predator. That's who, I'm the guy they were talking about. I was running with gangs. I was 14, you know, and my mom was drug addicted and my dad was always on the road and I was being shot at. And, you know, we have to remember, kids don't choose where they grow up. They don't choose their environments. They don't, there's so much that they don't choose. But Angel has, you know, sort of proven everybody wrong. He's an honors student now at Valencia College. He was a legislative aide. Time is what these kids need more than anything. And he said it hit him at about 19. He'd originally been sentenced to 30 years in prison. And at 19 is when it hit him, and he said, oh, I see what this means. I'm never going to have a family. I'm never going to have a career. I'm never. And these brains need time to mature, and that's by and large the biggest thing that they need more than any program. And we need to give the kids a chance to come around, because by and large, except for a very tiny fraction, they will.
I want to back up just a little bit to the original question, which I don't remember exactly how it was worded, is basically, is it up to who we elect? And I can tell you, as long as Florida is one of the few states where the state attorney has to be elected, and it's not appointed in any other way, the state attorney, even if that person is elected, is never going to be able to be seen as being even slightly soft on crime. So the state attorney is not going to be a driving force for any kind of revision to our system. Also, the elected people, though, that we can make a big difference on, especially, for instance, Senator Evers before Monday, are the people right now, currently, in Tallahassee. They can make a huge difference to everything that we're talking about tonight by these bills that are in there, in the process right now. Another, and it's not just as simple though, it's just who is elected. It's also the people who are actually in the trenches working on all sides of the system. I have seen very devoted and dedicated people on what I would consider for me the other side. I have seen very dedicated people working on the same side that I'm working. But I've also seen people who, today, like I said at the beginning, I'm working on my doctorate. I had to answer a question: when do I know I have outlived my usefulness in the church that I'm in? That's a hard question. I had to write a paper on that today. I have seen some people, unfortunately, who I think have outlived their usefulness in dealing with some of our juveniles, some of our children. I have heard one of our prosecutors, when I asked a judge, look at these graphs, why do we send so much more of our kids away to prison than so many other counties? The judge said, I don't know. I really wonder that myself. Are our kids really that bad? And I have had a prosecutor say, at that point, yes, Escambia County's children really are that bad. That's not what we need looking out for the best interests of our society and our children. We need people who are committed completely. And we need, as a society, to push for that, just at every opportunity that we have.
If I could respond to several statements that were just made. First off, there's a lot of reasons you can say why the recidivist rate is higher in one group and lower in another group. Number one, your lowest recidivist rate is going to be in civil citations. Why? Because those people have never committed a previous crime, they've committed a minor offense. Obviously, they are going to have the lowest recidivist rate. And as you go through the system, your recidivist rate is going to change. If the juveniles that go to adult court have a higher level of recidivist rate than other people in the system that go through a juvenile system, it may be simply because they are the ones that are more likely to reoffend and recommit offenses. Not because of the system itself, but because of the individual. Now, another thing that I absolutely want to respond to is the fact of an elected state attorney as opposed to appointed state attorney. It's my understanding that the majority of jurisdictions throughout the United States have an elected official that is a prosecutor. In some areas it's called a district attorney, in Florida it's a state attorney. The state attorney and the public defender are constitutional offices. They are elected, just like the judges in the trial courts, the circuit judges in the county courts are elected. The citizens of the state of Florida have decided that that is the best way to elect judges, the best way to elect the prosecutor, the best way to elect the public defender. Now, as far as whether or not a state attorney cannot be seen, quote, as being soft on crime, generally speaking, yes, prosecutors are tough on crime. That is their job. But that is not their only job. We have more alternative court programs, diversionary programs, either in adult court or juvenile court, than probably most any jurisdiction. In adult court, we have veterans court, we have mental health court, we have drug court, we have pretrial diversion, we have pretrial intervention. Those are all diversionary programs that are designed to keep individuals out of the prison system. In some of those programs, they are designed so that the charges are actually dismissed and they do not go on their record. They do not have a conviction and they are entitled to have that file expunged. Second, in the juvenile system, we have teen court, and I don't know all the courts, but we have teen court, we have other diversionary programs. We have the civil citation program. The civil citation program is probably going to be enlarged to encompass more individuals in the coming months to put that into effect. So when it's said that the state attorney or a prosecutor's sole job is to be tough on crime, that's not true. We dismiss cases where that is the appropriate thing to do. People made at one time, and Kelly can tell you this because she and I were in a division together many years ago. Right? Many. Even if I had a reputation as a tough prosecutor, I also was responsible for reducing or dismissing as many cases as anybody because that's what the facts called for. If a case should be dismissed, we dismiss it. If a case should be reduced, we reduce it. If a case should be referred to an alternative program, we do it. If somebody has done something very bad and needs to go to prison, for the rest of their life, then that's our job, because we view that as being necessary for a limited number of people. It's obviously not the majority of people. Do we have more people in prisons? Yeah. Is it a bad thing? Yes. Is it the system we have? Yes. And hopefully at some point in time we can do something better, but we haven't done a very good job of changing society, and until society's changed, we have to deal with what we have and what's available in the programs that are here.
All right, I'm going to let Keontae